Morning, everyone. It's being a little persnickety. So today we introduce a new element at the beginning of our Sunday services called Living Our Values Every Day. And if this sounds familiar from the stewardship campaign, it's because there are many ways for us here at the Unitarian Society of New Haven to live out our values. As many of you know, this congregation has long had a strong commitment to social justice. And so to help connect people to each other and to opportunities for serving the wider world, someone from the Social Justice Council will offer a brief description of actions that you can get involved with. That's what this element is all about. And we begin today with Lurleen DeVos discussing the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC.
Thank you. So, good morning. As Reverend Linda Susan said, I'm here on behalf of the Social Justice Council. So Unitarian Universalism has long been described as a faith of deeds, not creeds. Social justice activities at USNH and beyond are a way for us to live our values out loud. For many of us, this work is our primary spiritual practice. Beginning today, some of us engaged in the social justice work of our faith will share our work through our weekly love talks. That's living our values every day. We'll use these talks to invite you to join us in this practice. Last week, many of us were privileged to hear from Reverend Laura Randall of the UUSC as she invited us to reflect on the idea that another world is possible. Social justice work invites us to imagine the beloved community and then work to realize the dream. All over the world, through the UUSC, Unitarian Universalists are working with the folks most impacted by natural disasters, the migration crisis at the border, and the genocide of Rohingya people in Burma. They're trying to create that other world. The UUSC is working for climate justice with people partner to partner to support them in self-determining their steps for the future in the face of dramatic climate change. As many of you are aware, there will be climate change migrants, people who have to leave because their houses are underwater. For me, one of the most compelling things about the UUSC is the way that the partnerships are formed with grassroots organizations in the areas that are affected. The UUSC learns from the people what they need and how best to help them achieve their goals. Through these partnerships, folks who are affected are centered, and their deep knowledge of what needs to be done in their community is respected. I see this as a step toward dismantling white supremacy culture, a step toward recognizing that other perspectives and approaches are essential in achieving the world that we imagine. Similarly, the UUSC works with congregations in a partnership model. As we heard last week from Reverend Randall, the UUSC is willing to provide sermons and resources to support congregations and individual UUs in living our values every day. The UUSC depends on us to provide grassroots supportive initiatives, not only through financial donations, but also through education and calls for advocacy, writing to Congress, making phone calls, hosting rallies. But today, I'm concerned because our community does not have a UUSC representative. We don't have someone who will partner with the UUSC to bring this important work to USNH. We don't have a representative to partner with those people all over the world who need our support in order to achieve the beloved community we all dream of. We need a volunteer to be our representative. Someone who, with the support of the Social Justice Council, can share information and strengthen our commitment to living our UU values every day beyond our community and our nation. As the UUSC website says, advancing human rights is a result of many hands joining. We need to join hands with folks around the world to make the beloved community possible, to make the world we dream of possible. So please volunteer to be our UUSC representative. You can contact me, or you can contact socialjustice@usnh.org for more information. Thank you.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Society of New Haven. I am Rich Stockton, a member of the Worship Committee and your worship associate today. You can refer to me with the pronouns he and him. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad you chose to spend this time with us. We are a diverse, multi-generational faith community that inspires lives of compassion and generosity, nurtures spiritual growth, cultivates transformative connections, and creates a more just world. We believe that all people are inherently worthy. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. We continue to have hybrid services where we meet in person and also by live streaming. We still want to avoid close contact, and masks are mandatory inside our building for everyone's safety. And while you're in the sanctuary, as a courtesy, please silence your electronic devices. We have relaxed the bathroom rules so that more than one person at a time can use the main bathrooms, provided everyone remains masked. At the end of the service, we know people want to greet one another, but please make your way out of the sanctuary as soon as you can and greet each other outside. Outside is still a safer place to gather. There will be a Zoom meeting for newcomers immediately following the service, and there will also be a welcome table at the top of the stairs to the left. Well, actually, it might be on the right, but you'll see it. You can contact us by email at membership@usnh.org, or you can go to our website, usnh.org, to find out more about us. Now, looking ahead to next week, which is, of course, Halloween, we're going to have a multi-generational service, followed by an outdoor Halloween party. Everyone is invited, indeed encouraged by our minister, to wear a fun costume that works for all ages. You're also encouraged to bring an item for a remembrance altar, which will be outside in the memorial garden. For those of you watching on the live stream, you're also warmly welcome to just come for the party. And now let us worship together.
Humanism. Describing humanism on the UUA website, members of our Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association wrote, "We are, quote, religious in that we share with most Unitarian Universalists the natural human desires for a beloved and accepting community, a purpose greater than ourselves, rituals and practices that resonate with our common humanity and shared mortality, and opportunities to work with other tough-minded, warm-hearted people to do good in the world and to help one another attain the greatest possible fulfillment of life."
As a humanist, I light the chalice for the spirituality of humanism, which for many of us is connectedness. Humanists value their human connections and are pleased to be able to connect with so many members of this congregation today.
Covenant lies at the center of how Unitarian Universalists gather in community. We are united not by a particular set of beliefs, but by the promises we make about how we will be together, how we will treat each other, and how we will seek to mend relationships when we fall short of our aspirations. While the following words express our intentions in writing, our true covenant lives and breathes in our actions. Please join me now in reciting these words that are in your order of service. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive to be open, value differences, listen deeply, use kind language, speak our truths, work with conflict, and seek humor and joy.
Hi, everyone. For now, we ask that you refrain from singing along while Erica and I sing the hymn, but we invite you to listen, meditate on the words, and contemplate the music as you wish. Oh, what a piece of work are we. Oh, what a piece of work are we, how marvelously wrought, a quick contrivance of the hand, the wonder of our thought, the wonder of our thought. Why need to look for miracles outside of nature's law? Humanity we wonder at with every breath we draw, with every breath we draw. But give us room to move and grow, but give our spirit play, and we can make a world of light out of the common clay. Out of the common clay.
In a worship service about the love and care we offer to our fellow human beings, it seems only fitting to celebrate USNH's Board of Trustees. I'd like to invite all board members who are here this morning to come up to the chancel. In a free religious community, To serve is the highest expression of our commitment and love. To be asked to lead is the highest honor. The USNH members whom you have chosen to lead you this year are here before you. The relationship between a congregation and board is one of deep respect and mutual regard. You have asked them to take on the holy work of discernment and guidance. They need you to support them in their work, share ideas and concerns in love, and to offer them trust as they fulfill their office faithfully. The work of the church is the work of the people. It is the work of building the world of which we dream. It may require time spent poring over budget sheets, hours spent in meetings. It may manifest in shared laughter or outright frustration from time to time. But it is always sacred because it is always in pursuit of the beloved community. I ask now the members of USNH, will you offer love and trust to your board, responding when they seek your input, showing up when they tell you that work needs to be shared, and listening carefully when they speak of the life of the congregation? If so, please respond, we will. And to the members of the board, will you be diligent and faithful in your work, bringing your best selves and practicing self-care and open-heartedness, tending with love the details of the work, and always keeping the goal of beloved community in front of you as you serve? If so, please respond, we will. We will. May the spirit of love guide you. May a spirit of joy infuse the work in which you engage. And may your service bless the world. Amen. Thank you all so much. Let's have a round of applause.
All these changes you have to make. I now invite you to join me in holding in our hearts the joy and sorrow of those in our community, closing your eyes and going inward if you are comfortable doing so. Some of our burdens are made lighter as others help us carry them. Some of our joys shine more brightly as others reflect our delight. Now, we don't have any specific joys and sorrows to share today. In the future, I request that you do send in notes to the office telling us what you feel comfortable sharing, and we will do so at our next service. And for all the joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, we bear witness. Together, let us give thanks for this community of care.
I invite you into a spirit of meditation, prayer, or contemplation of ultimate things. I offer these words from Emerson Zora Hamsa for us to ponder together in the silence that follows. The church family of my childhood is the reason that the humanism that guides my life is rooted in the love and care of other human beings. My humanist approach to living prioritizes practices of community. The love and care that were given to me and required of me during my childhood in the AME Zion Church, it epitomizes the roots of my humanist practices today. Sister May taught me to recognize what is possible when human beings are responsible and accountable to one another. Humanism is the way that I honor the radical love, work, and yes, even the faith of my ancestors. Returning without haste from the silence. Invite you back into this space, into your bodies, into this community of those who wish you well. Amen, and blessed be.
We are grateful for all the good things we have been given. We appreciate the uplifting energy of community. The spirit of generosity fills us, and we want to give back also. There are so many things we can do together that we can't do alone. We aren't going to pass around the collection plates today yet, but we still need your offering more than ever to support the ministries of this congregation. When you get back home, you can go to our website, usnh.org, and under Online Services donation plate, or you can mail to our address, 700 Hartford Turnpike, Hamden, Connecticut, 06517. And there will be plates near the exits where you can place a contribution. Be as generous as you are able. Your contributions are gratefully received.
Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that, without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. The life stance of humanism, guided by reason, inspired by compassion, informed by experience, encourages us to live life well and fully. It evolved through the ages and continues to develop through the efforts of thoughtful people who recognize that values and ideals, however carefully wrought, are subject to change as our knowledge and understandings advance. This document, the Humanist Manifesto 3, is part of an ongoing effort to manifest in clear and positive terms the conceptual boundaries of humanism, not what we must believe, but a consensus of what we do believe. It is in this sense that we affirm the following.
Knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experimentation, and rational analysis. Humanists find that science is the best method for determining this knowledge, as well as for solving problems and developing beneficial technologies. We also recognize the value of new departures in thought, the arts, and inner experience, each subject to analysis by critical intelligence. Humans are an integral part of nature, the result of unguided evolutionary changes. Humanists recognize nature as self-existing. We accept our life as all and enough, distinguishing things as they are from things as we might wish or imagine them to be. We welcome the challenges of the future and are drawn to and undaunted by the yet to be known. Ethical values are derived from human need and interest as tested by experience. Humanists ground values in human welfare, shaped by human circumstances, interests, and concerns, and extended to the global ecosystem and beyond. We are committed to treating each person as having inherent worth and dignity, and to making informed choices in a context of freedom consonant with responsibility.
Life's fulfillment emerges from individual participation in the service of humane ideals. We aim for our fullest possible development and animate our lives with a deep sense of purpose, finding wonder and awe in the joy and beauties of human existence, its challenges and tragedies, and even the inevitability and finality of death. Humanists rely on the rich heritage of human culture and the life stance of humanism to provide comfort in times of want and encouragement in times of plenty. Humans are social by nature and find meaning in relationships. Humanists long for and strive toward a world of mutual care and concern, free of cruelty and its consequences, where differences are resolved cooperatively without resorting to violence. The joining of individuality with interdependence enriches our lives, encourages us to enrich the lives of others, and inspires hope of attaining peace, justice, and opportunity for all. Working to benefit society maximizes individual happiness. Progressive cultures have worked to free humanity from the brutalities of mere survival and to reduce suffering, improve society, and develop global community. We seek to minimize the inequities of circumstances and ability, and we support a just distribution of nature's resources and the fruits of human effort, so that as many as possible can enjoy a good life.
Humanists are concerned for the well-being of all, are committed to diversity, and respect those of differing yet humane views. We work to uphold the equal enjoyment of human rights and civil liberties in an open, secular society, and maintain that it is a civic duty to participate in the democratic process and a planetary duty to protect nature's integrity, diversity, and beauty in a secure, sustainable manner. Thus engaged in the flow of life, we aspire to this vision with the informed conviction that humanity has the ability to progress towards its highest ideals. The responsibility for our lives and the kind of world in which we live is ours and ours alone.
In today's reading, you heard the beautiful words of the Humanist Manifesto from 2003, a further evolution of the two previous manifestos published in 1933 and 1973. For me, humanism can be summed up by that last sentence: the responsibility for our lives and the kind of world in which we live is ours and ours alone. That's part of why I consider myself humanist, among other things. UU Minister Bruce Clear puts it this way: humanism is not a particularly complicated idea. It is not a set of beliefs so much as it is a set of commitments. It means holding concern for this worldly matters rather than otherworldly matters, and being committed to that which improves the human condition in this world. Unitarian Universalism and humanism have long been intertwined. According to Reverend Clear, humanism as an organized movement in the United States began within Unitarian churches. In the opening years of the 20th century, John Dietrich, a Unitarian minister in Spokane, Washington, and later in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was preaching a non-theistic religion he called humanism. In Des Moines, Iowa, a Unitarian minister named Curtis Reese was preaching a non-theistic religion he called the religion of democracy. When these two met at a conference in 1917, they discovered the similarities of their messages, and Reese eagerly adopted Dietrich's label, humanism. Throughout the 1920s, the humanist view attracted many followers in the denomination. Eventually, the Humanist Fellowship was formed, largely by Unitarians at the University of Chicago. This group later reorganized as the American Humanist Association. In 1933, a statement outlining the philosophy of humanism was published under the title A Humanist Manifesto. Of the 84 people who originally signed the document, over half were Unitarian ministers. You can also see the connections between humanism and Unitarian Universalism in our 6 sources, 2 of which are closely associated with humanism. The words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. That's the 2nd source. And the 5th source, humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. In other words, humanism is indeed one of the places that our living tradition turns to for wisdom. Now, before we get too far into the sermon, I want to mention a couple of things. One is that humanism and atheism are not interchangeable terms, though sometimes in UU circles they're treated that way. Atheism just means without God, atheism. It doesn't say anything about what one does believe in or how they should live. Humanism, on the other hand, is a philosophy and a life stance, as the manifesto calls it. It's a way of orienting yourself towards an ethical life based in human needs and interests. Indeed, there are many kinds of humanism: religious humanism, secular humanism, Buddhist humanism, Christian humanism, Marxist humanism, post-humanism, and so on. I also want to offer reassurance about something that came up in a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I have never tried, and will never try, to convince you one way or the other about your spiritual beliefs. That includes the existence of God, the non-existence of God, or gods, or the goddess, or whatever. I may express my beliefs in different terms than you do, but I'm never trying to pull a fast one. And equally, I expect all of us to treat each other's beliefs with respect, which is a promise we make in our covenant. As the manifesto notes, humanists are concerned for the well-being of all, are committed to diversity, and respect those of differing yet humane views. Belief is for each of us to explore for ourselves, though I'm always happy to accompany you on the journey. So, why are we talking about humanism today? Why is it important? Well, first, it affirms that living an ethical life need not require a belief in God, however you define that word. There's a commitment to treating people with dignity and to making responsible choices. I think of people running for public office, for example, where professing a belief in God seems almost required, even if the person doesn't live with anything approaching a moral compass. I'd much rather support the person who doesn't believe in God, but believes deeply in doing right by their fellow human beings and demonstrating accountability to their oath of office. Humanism also highlights our interdependence. As the manifesto notes, humanists long for and strive toward a world of mutual care and concern, free of cruelty and its consequences, where differences are resolved cooperatively without resorting to violence. We are part of nature, not separate from it, which implies a responsibility to do our part to care for the earth. Humanism reminds us that facts matter. The importance of consensus reality has taken a battering for a couple of decades now, especially the last several years. But when you're committed to using reason, observation, and experimentation as the basis for your decisions and opinions, then you don't get to make up the data. Perhaps most importantly, humanism calls us to care in the here and now. If we recognize that this life is the only gift we've been promised, or even that we can't be sure what happens after we die, then we've got quite an impetus to make the most of our time on this planet. And not just for ourselves, but also for the other beings with whom we share the planet. Where I do think humanism comes up a bit short is in its emphasis on the rational for knowledge about the world. And please don't misunderstand me. I am a big fan of science and math. I wear my MIT nerdliness with pride. Nerd pride, yay. I just don't think rational analysis is always the right tool for understanding things, including some pretty dang important things. For example, you could break down a poem into its metaphors and half rhymes and linguistic motifs, but that still wouldn't explain why the poem William Button's Burial at Sea literally took my breath away the first time I read it. Similarly, love shapes much of human existence, but it isn't provable. I mean, how do you apply critical intelligence to that kind of inner experience? Someone could exhibit a series of actions that might imply love, but how do you know what the person is actually feeling? And if I tell someone the truth about my inner experience, let's say about microaggressions I've endured as a person of color, how can they be sure it's their rational mind that doesn't want to believe me rather than their unconscious biases? This is where another one of Unitarian Universalism's 6 sources is helpful. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. This source encourages curiosity over analysis alone. It's also where feelings of awe come in, which is where I believe all humans intersect in connecting with something larger than ourselves, whatever name we give it. Whether you're looking out across a mountain range, or crunching fallen leaves underfoot, or listening to a beloved piece of music, or staring at a sleeping newborn, that moment when our hearts expand grounds us profoundly in the here and now. Reverend Carol Hepikowski writes, "Those of us who call ourselves religious humanists have a strong reverence for life. Many of us experience a deep sense of awe before the mysteries of life and death, those powers greater than ourselves. We share a respect for science and reason, and we are willing to live with ambiguity, to live without definitive answers. We share a deep concern about injustice and the fate of human life, indeed all life on this planet, our home in the universe. We identify with the human story, even as we recognize it as intimately tied to the story of the rest of the world." One of the things that I value most about Unitarian Universalism is that it's a faith that requires us to opt in. We choose to be here. We choose to affirm our shared principles. Humanism encourages us to keep choosing each other. Everyone believes something, even without what might be termed the supernatural. How we put our belief into action, though, is the real test of whether it's life-giving or life-denying. I close with the words of my colleague, Reverend Elizabeth Mount. "From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another, generation to generation. We awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. Amen, and blessed be."
The human touch can light the flame, which gives a brightness to the day. The Spirit uses mortal flame, life's vehicle for work and play. The lover's kiss, the friend's embrace, the clasp of hands to show we care, the light of welcome on the face, our treasured moments all can share. May all who come within our reach be kindled by our inner glow, not just in spirit's words we preach, in human touch, love's faith we show.
Please join in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I want to say a thank you to all of our participants today. Thank you so much for being part of the service and for bringing this as a topic for us to learn about and hear about today. I really appreciate it. Friends, the difficult news is that we are responsible for what happens in this world. But that's also the excellent news, because it means that we have the power to make the changes that are needed to build the beloved community. Never forget that we have agency. We can make choices that bless the world. So let us go with courage and with kindness and be a blessing to the world. Amen.